right, let's get into it. So we are here with David to do another character spotlight. So, David, why don't you go ahead and explain to everyone your character, their name, what they look like, class, that sort of thing.
Right. My backup character, I decided I wanted to go in the opposite direction because, if you've been watching this series, you know Jarthur is a wee little guy, very smart, maybe a little too smart for his own good sometimes, just a little. Anyway, so I went with the opposite direction. So my backup character, if you've watched the episode where we do our backup characters, uh, more in that his name is Gregory, and his whole shtick is that he is a dragonborn barbarian warlock, and we'll get to that a little bit. But he's a red dragonborn. He's a very large, very wide, has very tall horns and very large horns, and is just very much probably going to be the first person that you see in a group. And he is absolutely dumb as rocks.
And so right now, how do you guys start those characters at level 5? So you were level 3 Pact of the Blade and level
Yeah, that
2
is correct.
Barbarian, right? Okay, gotcha.
So the
What?
idea was I wanted him to have the pact weapon, the Eldritch whatever, and right now his charisma and his strength score are pretty much dead even. So if I use a strength attack or uh, a charisma attack for his pact
Pact
weapon,
of
it
the
doesn't
Blade, yeah.
really make a difference.
Sure.
But I thought that that was like a cool little like flavor thing that I could do.
Yeah. What is your strength and charisma at right now?
It's a +3 bonus on both, I
Okay,
think.
gotcha. Cool. What inspired this character?
Um, this is actually the character I first made, and I first made him as a direct, excuse me, a direct opposition to Jarthur, because Jarthur was definitely an unoptimized character to be the illusion, whatever, but I kind of wanted to have a character who could cast spells, but primarily was just going to get in people's faces and smack them a bunch.
Sure.
And then as I was looking through the different options, it came to mind that the Pact of the Blade was pretty much the only caster option that would be good for actually smacking people in the face.
Yeah.
And then I kind of, as I went along, I was like, well, do I make him a fighter and then have him be a warlock? And then eventually I decided to go for the barbarian so I could get the rage. And the rage will make it so that it can't use spells, but who cares if he's just in their face smacking them with a big
Sure.
warhammer or maul or whatever.
Yeah. And it's almost kind of like wild magic in a sense of like while you're in
Hmm.
rage, like you don't have access to your spell slots, but it's because you don't need them at that moment in time.
Exactly.
And when you come out, then you have all your spell slots to use like crazy, you know?
Yeah.
Granted,
And warlocks only have two anyway, so like
sure.
that doesn't.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Uh, So I went ahead and did all that. And then as I was building this character, I kind of came up with the backstory for him, which I could tell now if you want.
Go for it.
So basically, the idea was he's an orphan and he was left at some monastery in the middle of nowhere. He doesn't know where it is because sense of direction is not something he has. Uh, And while there, he has this rage problem, and like the monks at the temple and the all the clerics and all that, they're trying to teach him to be um, calm yourself, calm thyself, and it doesn't really work for him. He doesn't really all the teaching kind of goes over his head. Um, And then he has this moment where he thinks he gets visited by God, and it turns out it's literally just this um, devil that's trying to gain a follower. And it turns out Gregory is incredibly gullible. So he gets convinced that this devil is God, signs a pact with them, ends up stealing something from the monastery and escaping, and he's off to join whatever adventure. And meanwhile, he's got the literal devil on his shoulder, telling him, "Oh, those people, they're bad. Go kill them, regardless of whether or not they're actually bad." And Gregory will pretty much follow the devil on his shoulder, regardless of situation. And since I'm making up whatever the devil is saying, I can kind of use that. So
Sure.
for now, it's just maximum chaos. Just kill as many people as possible is going to be the goal of the devil on his shoulder.
Sure.
And I just think that's really funny because technically my character is lawful, but he's literally just following the words of this devil on
Sure.
his
Yeah.
shoulder.
And
So that would be pretty fun.
yeah, and we even saw that in the first session um, when you just attacked and killed Todd, and Teddy was like, "Why did you do that?" God told me to.
Yeah,
He's
and
like,
he
"Oh,
is
okay."
very much like he's going to blatantly say this stuff, and like if the party is smart, they're not going to try to convince him otherwise, and if
Sure.
they aren't, they'll try to convince him otherwise, and it
Yeah.
probably won't go over well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know we talked about like the physical and how you plan on playing the characters a lot differently between Jarthur and Gregory. What are
Mm-hmm.
like are there any similarities between Jarthur and Gregory that you see potentially happening or thought of?
There is the similarity. As one of his eldritch invocations, Gregory has disguise self. And I just kind of put that in there because like there's not a ton of them that are like some of them are super useful, but about like the Eldritch Blasts, but he's not going
Yeah.
to be using that all that
Sure.
often. So I figured some kind of sneaky like, oh, devil on his shoulder. You must disguise yourself as one of the common people in order to get in here. And then when you do that, then you can kill all the bad guys.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, sure. And since he's a warlock, he's actually relatively charismatic, and I kind of figure that that'll make sneaking through an encampment um, disguised as one of the soldiers or whatever will be really really funny.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's just one of the reasons why I did that. And that is probably at the core the most similar
Sure.
uh, fit.
Yeah. It's pretty different in
Um,
almost every other aspect.
Beyond that, I feel like there might be some similarities if like uh, they get to a point where the party starts growing on Gregory. I feel like he will start to have friends with the party, and I'm not really sure how that's going to work out.
Hmm.
Um, because again, these are backup characters, so
Sure. Yeah.
if for them to actually have limelight, that means that some of our main characters are going to die,
Hmm.
and that'll make for a very interesting dynamic
Yeah.
because on the role playing side, having a like if any one of the characters dies or any two, it's going to cause a very large shift in the dynamic of the
Mhm.
party.
Yeah, not only roleplay wise, but like combat wise, changes the
Well, yeah,
composition of everything, you know.
yeah.
And also, like one thing that I'm interested to see is how the new characters will kind of come in with their viewpoints on things versus the characters and the goals
Hmm.
that are in place. Because like right now, the existing party is kind of like all on the same page for the most part of
Most part,
what
yeah.
to do. Now, how they do those things, there's some room for debate. But as far as what they're doing, they're on the same page, which kind of leads into the next question. Um, what does Gregory have any like specific goals or ambitions that you're looking forward to chasing in the future?
So one of the things that's kind of funny about this guy is that he is fully following this devil on his shoulder, right? So he's gonna be a very, very, very staunch ally of chaos, just because of that. But from his personal viewpoint, I feel like he's going to want to probably start an orphanage,
Sure.
like because he was an orphan and he wants no one else to have to go through that. So like that's gonna be like whether or not the devil on his shoulder will say to do some good things in with all the bad that he's telling him to do will be interesting. We'll see how manipulative that will grow to be. And I feel like it's also how much is he going to grow to respect his companions? Because right now he doesn't really have a ton of respect for them
Sure. Yeah.
outside of the giant,
Yeah.
because or not giant, Goliath. What was his fate? What was his name again?
Teddy.
Teddy.
Mm.
So because he didn't really meet Caspian. He
Yeah.
didn't really doesn't really know Fungi Woman.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Y'all spent very little time together so far.
So that dynamic, and depending on whether or not Jarthur ends up dying and Gregory replaces him, will be
Sure.
that'll be a whole different dynamic,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
And considering how close, like I think it was there was one episode where we were literally one death saving throw from death there,
Mm-hmm.
and that was really stressful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Because that was Master of Magic, I believe. Because at one
yeah,
point,
it was the second part of that
yeah.
fight where we had that brilliant idea to smoke out the mages, and it didn't really work out the way we wanted it to.
Sure. But it
But
was entertaining.
it was in fact
Yeah.
entertaining.
Yeah. Because during that
Well,
fight,
hopefully it was entertaining for the people watching it. It was
sure.
definitely entertaining for us.
Yeah. 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 Because you thought you were gonna die. You were left to die. So,
Pretty much.
um,
That was also the first episode we started doing death saving throws behind the screen
correct.
as opposed to
Yeah.
in front,
Uh huh.
and that really affected the
Yeah.
stress level.
Yeah. It made it a lot more intense. So with what you know of like what's going on within the world, as a player, do you think any of like the things that you've seen as Jarthur may be of interest to Gregory in terms of like exploring, or any like loose threads that Gregory would pull on that Jarthur doesn't really care about or anything like that?
If anything, I feel like it's definitely Gregory is going to be a lot more combative. So Jarthur does want to overthrow the Rosethorn Trading Company, right? So that is something that he's actually invested in.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Gregory, even though he wouldn't be invested in it, would still want to do it.
Sure.
Definitely any of the little side projects Jarthur has, Gregory wouldn't really care about, like
Sure.
taking care of what's his face, the shopkeep with no hands,
Sure. Yeah.
Dabbledob.
Dappledob. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not going to care about that all that much. He's not going to
Yeah.
care about like setting up a library. But on the other hand, he might care about getting an orphanage set
Orphanage.
up of
Sure.
some kind.
Yeah.
Probably put the granny in charge of that one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Absolutely. She's good at raising kids.
Well,
So
I mean, rogue kids, but
yeah. True. Um, if your backup character had to describe themselves in 3 words, what would they be?
if I'm going funny, it would just be servant of God.
Sure. Yeah.
If I'm going realistic, uh, especially I feel like it would probably be angry, driven, and a little dumb.
Sure.
He thinks he's smarter than he is.
Yeah.
Let's go with, but he still thinks he's dumb.
Yeah. And then the last question, then I'll open it up to anything else you want to say. Um, on a scale of 1 to 10, how upset would you be if Jarthur died and you had to play Gregory full time from here on out?
Oh, for sure, at least like a 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I've invested a lot into Jarthur.
Hmm.
I think it would be fun to play Gregory. Like admittedly, that first session I had a lot of fun,
Mm.
but I enjoy the amount of time and energy I put into like not only crafting Jarthur as like a like the theory of the stats and all that jazz, but
Sure.
also like seeing how he's evolved as a character.
Mm.
Because like he was supposed to be like the suave college guy who's like selling you on his pyramid scheme, and
Yeah.
now he's become like the heart of the
Yeah.
team
The
just
moral
out of
backbone.
nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like it's really fun
Yeah.
to see how um, Dungeons and Dragons can cause a character that I just made up.
Yeah.
It can change him slowly but surely just
Mm-hmm.
because of the interactions that we have with characters,
Absolutely.
and that part of the role playing aspect is something that is going to be hard to it will be interesting to see how it affects all the other characters though if Jarthur does die. So like
Yeah.
that's why it's not like quite as bad as it would otherwise be because I feel like seeing that aftermath would be really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like as I'm thinking about it, like I'm actually getting sold more on like
Yeah.
especially if like Jarthur dies at like helping free the Rosethorn from
Mm-hmm.
the RTC, like that would be an interesting end to his character, like going out as a martyr.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like again,
It's
this is
got a
all
nice ring to
subject
it.
to how the game gets rolled,
Sure. Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Sometimes you let the dice decide the story, and you put words to it
well,
after that to describe it.
yeah, I mean, like the dice decide uh, what happens, but we decide how it happened.
Absolutely.
Like, and
Absolutely.
that's having a little bit of randomness in a story can really make it a lot more tense for both the
Mm.
teller of the story and the hearer.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I'm hoping that we keep the story going and it stays interesting
Sure.
because it's certainly been that way so far.
Yeah. Absolutely. And anything else you want to talk about for Gregory?
I just as I said, I kind of built this guy to have like the angel on his shoulder. Not gonna lie, he's a little bit inspired by Kronk from Emperor's New Groove,
Yeah.
but right now he's just got the devil on his shoulder.
Sure. Doesn't have the
I'm
angel
kind of
part
hoping
yet.
at some point that one of our characters kind of gets to be the angel on his
Sure.
shoulder. Like
Yeah.
that would be like kind of the character growing, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
We'll see if that happens, but I think Jarthur would have to get the get deep sixth before that happens.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the ironic thing. Out of all the characters, the person most likely to fill that role is Jarthur, and Jarthur and Gregory can't be played at the same time, you know?
Well, I mean they could be,
Well,
but it would
yeah,
be a nightmare to keep track of,
yeah.
and
I'm not
we're not gonna
sure.
do two characters for every player.
Yeah, I'm not sure anybody here is ready for that yet. So, maybe in the future for a little bit, but not long term. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for hopping on, David, and doing this interview. So, yeah, we got a nice little look at Gregory in the past session. So, if you want to go watch Gregory's first session, you can go do that now on YouTube. Like, follow, subscribe for more. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below.
And we will be forced to answer them contractually.
Yes. Or all your characters will die. Bye bye.
Bye.